Good day, everyone. Welcome to Real Conservative News. I'm your host, Nathaniel Rajkumar. Starting off locally here in Trinidad and Tobago, the sentencing of Rishi Motilal to death for the 2024 killings of his common-law wife, Tara Ramsarup, and their daughter has sparked a divided debate within the Senate. Nobody's supposed to be, there should not be any division about that. Resuming the highest level type of punishment for serious crimes here in Trinidad and Tobago should not be something that needs to be debated. Should be supported by both the opposition and the government. While Prime Minister Kamala Persad-Bissessar has previously vowed to resume executions to combat the country's high murder rate, Government Senator David Nackett has voiced his firm opposition. Nackett argues that the state should not have the power to take a life, especially with a judicial system he views as fundamentally biased against marginalized communities, highlighting a significant ideological rift within the current administration. What are these marginal communities he talking about? You sounding more PNM than UNC, brother. This legislative gridlock is further complicated by the Pratt and Morgan precedent, which has effectively stalled executions in Trinidad and Tobago since 1999. The rulings mandate that if the appeals process extends beyond 5 years, a death sentence must be commuted to life imprisonment, often rendering such cases more symbolic than certain. As the upper house remains split, the case serves as a stark reminder of the tension between public calls for severe justice, good justice, right justice, and legal hurdles that continue to prevent the resumption of the death penalty. Now, before I get to my online response, since we have to abide by this Pratt and Morgan ruling, what the government needs to do is ensure that we have criminal courts that are probably just dedicated to murder, to very serious crimes, acts of terrorism and murder and so forth, so that the process can be completed before the 5-year period so that we can resume that type of justice here in Trinidad and Tobago. My response: it's time for the Prime Minister to remove David Nackett from his position as Senator. Recently, he disagreed with Prime Minister Kamala's statements about terrorists in the Middle East. Of course, later on, the news reported that he came back and said, oh, well, I'm supporting the government. But after making that initial statement that the Kakash media ran with in public, people, he could have stated that to the Prime Minister personally. Came out in public and made that statement. Right? So I'm going to read over that part. Recently, he disagreed with Prime Minister Kamala's statements about terrorists in the Middle East, and now he has an issue with using the death penalty to punish monsters who take the lives of innocent people in our country. What is really going on with this man? It's okay to be independent-minded people, even if you're a member of the ruling party, although you will never see that taking place really under the PNM. But this here, what is taking place is ridiculous because he's not standing up for what is actually right. People are tired of the crime in this country. And yet, you know what takes place? A lot of citizens are even actually supporting criminal actions within the TTPS, like extrajudicial killings. That is wrong. That is illegal. That is what we're not supposed to be supporting. But supporting the legal form of punishment for committing serious crimes like that, people have a problem with. I mean, what is really going on with the values of people here in Trinidad and Tobago? Something is definitely wrong. Following a spirited May Day march through San Fernando, Ancel Roget signaled a major turning point for the nation's energy sector by announcing that the Pointe-a-Pierre Refinery is on the brink of reopening. I hope that what he's saying is 100% correct in the sense of it's on the brink. I know it will reopen. Question is when. It will be a wonderful gift if we end up hearing the announcement that it's reopened before Christmas. Wonderful Christmas. The best Christmas gift that you can give Trinis, actually. Addressing a crowd at Harris Promenade, Roget emphasized that years of persistent advocacy by the OWTU and wider trade union movement are finally yielding results, with a finalized deal to restart the facility expected to breathe new life into the economy. And he's 100% correct about that. Petrotrin is not only the backbone of the energy industry, it's also the backbone of our economy. Two main ways especially. It's going to bring in much needed foreign revenue, forex, US dollars, to stimulate our economy. And also, when thousands of individuals, thousands of citizens are employed in a company like Petrotrin or whatever name it will have for the refinery now, these individuals have high-paying jobs, and therefore that money will circulate within our communities, within their communities, and then it's going to spread also throughout Trinidad and Tobago to an extent. When you have an enriched middle-class people, that is how you stimulate and recover an economy. You always hear this from people that actually are wise economists. An empowered middle class bridges the gap between that has purchasing power, increased purchasing power. They bridge the gap between the wealthy and the poor. They are the ones that will open more businesses. They are the ones that will be able to provide jobs for the poorer class. That's CPEP and URP. Yeah, it's okay to have maintenance work and stuff like that, but they cannot revive an economy. And that's just the reality. Alongside this industrial breakthrough, he noted that long-stalled wage negotiations for several key unions are nearing completion. Another wonderful news, marking a significant victory for collective bargaining and worker presentation across both the public and private sectors. The push for a restart comes years after the government's 2018 decision, PNM government, to shutter the refinery and restructure Petrotrin. A move that displaced thousands of workers and fundamentally altered the local economic landscape. In other words, it destroyed it. Since then, the facility has remained a central point of political and social tension, with labor leaders consistently urging that its closure surrendered national energy security and weakened the middle class. Exactly. By positioning the refinery's revival as both a source of mass employment and a correction of past policy under the PNM, Roget is framing this moment not just as an industrial update, but as a long-awaited restoration of the country's industrial backbone of our economy.
Monday, May 4, 2026, in Trinidad and Tobago is expected to be predominantly sunny and hazy, with high temperatures reaching approximately 31 degrees Celsius (88 degrees Fahrenheit). Breezy conditions will persist throughout the day, and while the morning starts dry, there is a chance for isolated light showers or passing cloudy patches by the afternoon. Key weather highlight sheet and humidity. The maximum temperature will be around 31 degrees Celsius (88 degrees Fahrenheit), but the Trinidad and Tobago Met Office indicates a heat index, feels like temperature, of up to 34 degrees Celsius (93 degrees Fahrenheit). Saharan dust. A mild concentration of Saharan dust is present, which will contribute to slightly hazy conditions across both islands. Marine conditions. For those heading to the coast, seas are expected to be moderate, with open water waves reaching between 1.5 meters to 2.0 meters. UV alert. The UV index is expected to be high 8, so sun protection is strongly recommended during the middle of the day.
Regional news now. Vice President Dr. Bharat Jagdeo of Guyana reportedly warned that Guyana's reliance on food imports is driving up local prices, leaving the nation vulnerable to global conflicts and rising shipping costs. Speaking at the Arthur Chung Conference Center, he emphasized that the country is not producing enough of what its citizens consume, making increased domestic output a national priority to stabilize the cost of living. Great news again under the Irfan Ali administration. To address this, the government is pushing for large-scale agricultural industrialization to move beyond low productivity farming, which will also end up with a case where they can export as well to the rest of the Caribbean and maybe other countries in South America and stuff. President Dr. Mohammed Irfan Ali has backed this effort with a $3 billion support package for farmers, aiming to lower production costs and build a more self-sufficient food system capable of weathering its external economic shocks. Rising fuel prices and the ongoing Middle East conflict are forcing schools to reconsider remote education as a way to mitigate operational costs. In Kingston, Jamaica, Wilmer's Boys School has already begun assessing student and parent readiness a potential return to online learning. That online learning is okay, especially if you're living in remote areas, rural areas. But I really don't believe it can substitute for in-class types of tuition for more than one reason. Teachers are there to be able to observe the students, see their weaknesses and whatsoever, in whatever subject, whether it is mathematics, English, and so forth. And therefore, you need interaction with your peers. Proper interaction, no any kind of lawlessness, the kind of nonsense are taking place in our schools here in Trinidad and throughout the Caribbean. And that's why I support Kamala's decision to remove the troublemakers from the system. Principal Dwight Pennycook noted that this proactive move follows recent government signals suggesting that the economic strain on transportation and utilities may soon require a shift in school delivery models. I can't help it at this point in time. What you're going to do? As a cost of commuting and maintaining large campuses climbs, administrators are viewing the digital infrastructure built during the pandemic as a vital safety net, but let it be temporary if it is necessary, please. Not for years upon years. While the primary goal remains in-person instruction, which I said is the better alternative, the right thing, the questionnaire serves as a strategic contingency plan to ensure educational continuity. By preparing for a flexible transition, institutions hope to shield families and school budgets from the worsening global energy crisis. Leave it optional, people. That's what you should do. St. Vincent and the Grenadines has concluded its 2026 National Tourism Youth Congress, naming Braxton Lewis of North Union Secondary as the new Junior Minister of Tourism. Lewis won the title on April 30th after presenting innovative ideas for the nation's cultural industries. This is the type of things I like to hear youths getting involved in. Positive activities instead of joining gangs and looking for trouble, smoking weed. He is now set to represent the country at the Caribbean Tourism Organization's Regional Congress in Guyana this October. The event allows students to act as tourism policymakers, pitching creative solutions to modern industry challenges. By highlighting young voices, the Ministry of Tourism aims to foster future leadership and sustainable growth within the sector. Runners-up Aaron McDonald and Shea Glass were also recognized for their standout contributions to destination management. This is wonderful. This is what I love to see the youth, as I said before, getting involved in. Congratulations, all three of them. The Barbados Association of Journalists and Media Workers has called for the government to prioritize freedom of information legislation this parliamentary session. That is wonderful news. I support that, but it's what you're going to do with the information is the problem. And a lot of the times, Kakash media only reports information when it pertains to UNC. You barely ever hear anything. Sometimes, give them credit, they do sometimes really do expose a lot of stuff that takes place within the PNM as well. Never really, there's no balance there though. The amount of negative reports that pertains to UNC is far more than when they're reporting or highlighting anything on the PNM. Not to mention, you basically always see it, that they're biased and leaning on the PNM side. And not only on the PNM side, the radical leftist, jihadist side, when it pertains to international news as well. In a statement issued to mark World Press Freedom Day, Association President Ryan Broom said the legislation is essential to strengthening transparency and accountability across public institutions. Broom also used the occasion to urge the responsible and ethical use of artificial intelligence. See that AI thing? It really has some wonderful purposes. You can use it to benefit you in a lot of different ways, but it could be very, very dangerous as well. We have to be cautious, especially in these end times.
As the Barbados Association of Journalists and Media Workers observes and celebrates this World Press Freedom Day 2026, we reflect on the theme, Shaping a Future at Peace. Without a doubt, press freedom continues to be a key pillar for peace and security, not just in a global context, but for us in Barbados and the region as well. Now, while we may not typically find ourselves in active war zones, unfortunately, many of us have felt the impact of a different type of warfare on our streets and in our communities with the scourge of gun crime. As government, police, the defense force, and ordinary Barbadians continue to play their respective roles in responding to the troubling situation, we continue to urge journalists covering crime scenes to exercise the utmost caution. We urge our fellow media workers to be always guided by the Barbados Police Service in the effective and safe reporting of such incidents. Additionally, as we acknowledge our responsibility as gatekeepers of the facts to shape a peaceful future based on truth, BarJam uses this opportunity to urge the responsible use of AI as an assistive tool. We must preserve the focus on the matters of human interest and good news. We must also continue to embrace our role in this new media age as the bona fide sources that our citizens turn to ensure the information they encounter in the digital space is true and accurate. At the same time, we will not miss this opportunity to once again make an impassioned appeal to the government of Barbados to make freedom of information legislation a reality and to make it a priority for this new parliament. Some of our CARICOM neighbours have already made the important move, and we should be next. We believe a Freedom of Information Act will only serve to complement government's ongoing efforts to modernize and improve planned integrity legislation and, perhaps more importantly, create a dedicated framework of transparency and accountability for all of our public institutions. Ultimately, this can only serve to boost public confidence and knowledge about the operation of our public systems into the future.
The Free National Movement in Bahamas has denied any involvement in a billboard targeting Prime Minister Philip Davis, saying it was not printed, sanctioned, or approved by the party in a post on social media. Let's hope that they're saying the truth. The sign was circulated online and was believed to be located in Western New Providence. Eyewitness News understands the billboard was later removed that Saturday afternoon. Who removed it? Have any? Anyone can identify the individuals who removed it, and are they members of the FNM? During a PLP rally in the last couple of days, probably same Saturday night, PLP Chairman Fred Mitchell condemned it as nasty and a disgrace, alleging it was the work of the opposition. But I mean, if it doesn't have any camera footage to prove that, and you cannot identify the individuals, and the Prime Minister, you can't really believe what the Prime Minister is saying either. It's very possible, though. It's very likely it's the opposition. International news now. A cargo ship was attacked by several small boats in the Strait of Hormuz yesterday, positioned just 11 miles off the Iranian coast. The vessel's master reported an encounter in the strategic waterway, a critical choke point for global energy supplies. While the crew is reported safe and the ship remains mobile, the incident has sparked immediate concerns over maritime security and potential spikes in global oil prices. The swarm tactics used in the approach have put regional naval forces on high alert as they monitored for further escalation. Escalation, of course, being perpetrated by the Iranian terrorist regime, what remains of it. This confrontation adds to a growing list of maritime disruptions that have forced shipping companies to consider their routes through the region. Security analysts warn that continued volatility in the strait could lead to higher insurance premiums and prolonged delays for international trade. Blame Iran for that. Not Trump, who's trying to protect everyone from these Iranian terrorists. And now the Iranian people are people. We are talking about the Ayatollah regime and the IRGC. Democrat Senator John Fetterman has broken with his party to endorse the strategy of choking Iran's economy via the naval blockade of the Strait of Hormuz. In a recent Fox News appearance, he praised the move as a strategic checkmate that drains Tehran's oil revenue and forces the regime to abandon its nuclear ambitions. Fetterman argued that the military pressure campaign is a necessary and effective tool for securing regional stability. As I said just now there, Trump is securing the region to protect the lives of everyone, including Israel and places in Europe, from the Iranian terrorists. And everybody have a problem with it, especially in the media. Fetterman argued that the military pressure campaign is a necessary and effective tool for securing regional stability. His comments have sparked a backlash from fellow Democrats whom he accused of rooting for the enemy out of partisan spite, opposing for opposing's sake, in other words, people. He's correct about that. Despite the internal friction, Fetterman insists that preventing a nuclear-armed Iran is a national security priority that must transcend party lines. He's, of course, correct about that as well. As the conflict intensifies, he remains a vocal supporter of using total economic isolation to force a resolution. The thing about it, it's not just about opposing for opposing sake. What Fetterman has to understand and realize is that the Democrats are no longer the Democrats of the... It was always a very negative type of party, a controversial party, a party that promoted segregation from the very beginning, from since over a century ago, right? During the Civil War and stuff like that. And even after the Civil War. But at the end of the day, what has happened now is that the party has become very radicalized. A lot of far left sort of concepts, including jihadist concepts, have taken over that party. So Fetterman, that's not the party that you probably even grew up in when you were younger. It's probably time to leave the DNC.
It wasn't that long ago. Every single Democrat says we can't let those lunatics, have a nuclear bomb. That's not a shocking view for a Democrat, but I've become the only Democrat in the entire Congress that have supported Epic Fury. There is a truth. It's a truth. Iran can't ever have a nuclear bomb. Another truth is they were committed to building one, and they were close to actually achieving that goal. I think it was entirely the right thing, just like Midnight Hammer a year ago. And here we are right now. No, Iran hasn't paid an appropriate price, because the price, for me, is denying them nuclear ambitions and also making sure they don't have the kind of missiles that could reach Europe or American assets in the region now too. We agree. We can't let Iran have those kinds of capabilities. And here we are. We're at the cusp. And that's why I'm the only Democrat that says that's entirely appropriate.
Bible quote of the day. Joel 2:28-32. And it shall come to pass afterward, that I will pour out my spirit on all flesh. Your sons and your daughters shall prophesy, your old men shall dream dreams, and your young men shall see visions. Even on the male and female servants in those days I will pour out my spirit. And I will show wonders in the heavens and on the earth, blood and fire and columns of smoke. The sun shall be turned to darkness, and the moon to blood, before the great and awesome day of the Lord comes. And it shall come to pass that everyone who calls on the name of the Lord shall be saved. For in Mount Zion and in Jerusalem there shall be those who escape, as the Lord has said, and among the survivors shall be those whom the Lord calls.
Folks, that brings us to the end of today's news report. Thanks again to everyone who continues to support my content. Please like, comment, share, and subscribe. Stay blessed and stay safe most of all. In Jesus' name.